What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media, and welcome to another episode of Path to a Million podcast. This one is a special one. My coach, my mentor, the man, Stephen Franson. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Hey, Nick. Great to be here.
I appreciate it. Tell people that might not know who you are a little bit about yourself, what you do right now, and then we'll hop into it.
So I'm Dr. Stephen Franson. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, but now live in New Hampshire, up on the seacoast, the aloha state of the Northeast.
Nice.
The
surfing, right?
Yeah, for the surfing,
That's
for
right.
the winter surfing.
That's right.
I am married to the love of my life, Dr. 𝘀𝗲𝗄 Franson, chiropractor that I met at Life University 27-ish years ago, something like that. 𝘀𝗲, if you're listening, it's something like that, right? We have two wonderful kids, Sam and Emma. And I was a full-on practicing chiropractor for 23 years, ran the original 𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗶 practice in Boston, Massachusetts, sold that just over a year ago because my coaching company, the 𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗄 practice, has essentially taken over my life and
the other 19 companies that you're a part of, right?
And several other companies businesses inside of the chiropractic ecosystem. So yeah, I am the founder of the 𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗄 practice coaching and consulting company, which I like to say this is my second act in chiropractic, and feel truly blessed that I know that I'm just like when I was in practice seeing patients. I'm doing exactly what God hardwired me to do. So I feel double blessed. So thanks, man.
Yeah. I will say, the 𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗄 practice, like the coach, I've done a lot of different coaching groups, and there's something very different about TRP in that you've really built it up to be, like a business, as opposed to the Franson show. You've got just such great coaches around you. You've got like so many people that are involved with it that you can, like as a chiropractor, you can really get whatever it is you're looking for because there's so many experts, on two different continents.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. So I have to admit that I do quote Nick Silveri pretty regularly when I say we have created what you called the Hall of Justice, right? So we have a bunch of superheroes, and I just feel like we have our strength is our team. And so we do truly practice what we preach. It is not the Franson show. I made that mistake in practice the first several years, and in the 𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗄 practice, we always say that we teach from pain, we teach from scar tissue, right? So we're trying to keep people from making the same mistakes that we made. So I did right that ship in practice and created an extraordinary associate doctor program, and really.
How many did you have?
39.
Wow.
So that was, just an incredible laboratory and training ground for what we're doing now. That's where I fell in love with just training and developing doctors, developing systems, developing teams, becoming a master delegator and trainer. So that's the essence of the 𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗄 practice. Be an awesome leader that runs great systems, surround yourself with A players, and delegate and do what you're uniquely gifted at doing.
Yeah. Well, I like I said, you do a great job with that. We'll talk about the CEO program in a little bit, but let's hop into it. So 0 to 250, that's the first stage, like when you get started out. What is it that you see that people, struggle with, or what are the things that they need to be focused on in that first stage on their path to $1 million?
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm probably going to lead each of these sections off with the same word, which is clarity. So in my experience, doctors at every stage of their careers, they really lack clarity, and that's a pain point because lack of clarity just slows everything down. It creates friction and stress and struggle and strain because you're working really hard and working a lot, but you're not exactly sure what a win looks like and what success looks like. So it's kind of like trying to build a house without a blueprint. So if you lack clarity, that's a really big range, Nick, 0 to 250. I would even break that down inside of that conversation, which I know you do. The difference between 0 to 100, 100 to 175, 175 to 250, from a high level, clarity. Doctors need to know exactly where they're trying to go ultimately, like what does success look like to them ultimately, and by ultimately in the chiropractic space, I recommend a 3 to 5 year view, and then what's next. So if they know where they are now, and that's the reality check, sort of the Stockdale complex from Jim Collins' work From Good to Great, what's the brutal facts? Where are they now? Exactly where are they today? Where do they want to be ultimately? What's the business that they're building 3 to 5 years out? and then most importantly, what's next. So they have to get total clarity around where am I going over the next 12 months. So before we talk about anything else, I think I want to make that point. Be super clear on what's next. What's the next iteration of the business, the practice look like?
Gotcha. So let's say that they get to that $250K a year mark. They maybe seeing like 100 a week, something like that. To go to that next stage, 250 to 500. What's the big pain points that you see, or things that they need to be focused on?
Yeah, I mean, in that revenue zone, typically the limiting factor is they haven't created a team around them.
Yeah.
So usually, to get to that first level, you can do that on brute force. You know, so many chiros are just so giving, loving, serving, passionate. And they build their business with their own horsepower, by a pound of their flesh and an hour of their time.
Yeah.
That'll serve them to a certain level, but then they hit a ceiling pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it just becomes a situation where they are a laborer, right? So that next stage really calls for a leader. So they have to go from laborer to leader, which means they've got to learn how to build a team of people around them. And I don't mean just hiring employees and assistants. I'm talking about building a team around them. So if you want to take your business to that next level and really create scale, you've got to go and put together a team of A players that are specific to the roles that you're hiring for, as if you were putting together a football team or putting together a concert touring band. You would have very specific people in very specific roles. That's the key to going to that next level and loving it.
Yeah, I always love that analogy that you use with the football team, to where a lineman has a very different skill set and job than a wide receiver. And you have to have people that are in the right, seat on the bus, the right person in the right seat. Speaking of that, with Chiro Matchmakers, which you're one of the founders of, what are some of the tips to, when you mention A players, that's all that I ever want in any of my businesses, because even when you have B players, you just like get aggravated because you think, or at least I do, where I know what's possible, and it just doesn't move forward the way it should. So what are some of the tips that you have for finding, hiring, and keeping A players?
I love that question. First, I'll tell you that there's a difference between wanting and just not tolerating anything but A players.
Right.
I think we all want A
Sure,
players,
sure.
right? So once you make up your mind that it's A players, period, and it's a non-negotiable, this is kind of a subjective thing, but we all know A players, right? There's A players and everyone else, and everybody knows it. So once you make up your mind that it's like, I am only going to tolerate A players on my team, then what ends up happening is your standards elevate, right? So starting with yourself, right? So your standards for yourself as a leader, your commitment to systems and training, and that includes the systems of finding and interviewing, hiring, and onboarding these A players. The key to understanding A players is these people love to train. They love to be developed. They want to grow. So if you hear team members that are resisting training, I don't want to role play. Do I really have to go to a seminar? What are you going to pay me to be at the seminar? Those are red flags, and those are symptoms of B, C, and D players. And here's the real pain, Nick, is A players won't tolerate B players and C players on the team. So they'll leave. So you'll lose your A players, and next thing you know, you're collecting B and C players. So there's real pain here. I love what top grading says around this. If you hire the wrong person, it's going to cost you 3 times their salary that year. If you lose the right person, it's going to cost you 5 times their salary to your business that year.
Wow.
That should scare the crap out of people.
Right. I always think of that. Because you know what an A player looks like. You may not be able to like describe it. I heard a quote one time where it's like, I don't know what pornography is, but I know it when I see it.
I know it when I see it.
Right? And it's like an A player, right?
Yeah. I mean, A players, you have to have some level of objectivity around this. I'll just suggest a few tools for you. One is they have to absolutely share your core values, the core values of the business. Not just agree with them, but share them and demonstrate them. Number 2, they've got to buy into your vision story. It has to energize them. They've got to be able to see it. They've got to be charged up by it. They've got to be compelled to help you create it. So A players need vision story. They need to know what success looks like for the organization and how do they contribute to the manifestation of that. And then I also love Gino Wickman's work in Traction when he talks about GWC. Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it well?
Yeah, I like that one. What's the like activity sheet or whatever that we went through, where it was like heart, skill, and talent.
Yeah, that's the A-player assessment, right?
Yeah.
So with the Remarkable Practice, in our Remarkable CEO program, we have a tool for assessing A-players.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, again, it's subjective until it's not, right? So when you sit down with your office manager or your COO or your integrator and you both assess your team, you do it together but separately, and you come together and you compare grades, it becomes much more objective. But the exercise is, on a scale of 0 to 10, grade this person based on their talent, their skill, and their heart, right? So talent is God-given, right? So the hardwiring, you know, like you said, you can either be an offensive lineman, you know, or you're not, right? God makes quarterbacks, right? So God makes pitchers. You'll either be able to throw the ball 92 miles an hour or you won't, right? You can either sing or you can't. You can either sell or you can't, right? So does this person have the skill sets, the talent to do this role really well? And is it talent, meaning it's God-given? You can develop talent, but you got to make sure that it starts with it's innate, right? So then you have skills, which is the second column, which is what do they know? What have they learned? What have they been trained on? And that's your systems, processes, procedures, scripting, etc. And then there's heart, which is, do they give a shit, right? Is this person on purpose? Are they servant-hearted? Are they self-starters? Are they engaged? Right? So all of these elements, and you grade them on the scale of 0 to 10. 0 being hopeless, 10 being genius. And you go across those three domains, so to speak, and you add them up, and you take a look at it and you say, yeah, you know what, this person's either an A player or they're not. And, you know, for me, for talent, I like 8s, 9s, and 10s, and I'll tolerate the 8 if they're 9s and 10s in the other two column, right? For skills, I don't care if you're a 2 or 3. I can train you. I can teach you anything. But
especially if the heart's there.
Yeah, the heart's the non-negotiable. It's 9s and 10s only. And 9 is why you only a 9. Let's get together and let's figure out why you're not a 10.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned scalability. You mentioned the CEO program. So I'm a part of that, and I think that I've been waiting. I just assumed that. Oh, here's our friend 𝗲𝗲𝗿𝗀. If you guys haven't noticed,
we've got a podcast bomb.
So if you guys haven't noticed, we're at the 𝘊𝗃𝗲𝗃𝗃 pool, and today is the opening day of like the club atmosphere here, because it's gonna be like 84 and sunny. So if you guys hear some club bangers in the background,
it's just 𝗲𝗲𝗿𝗀.
Just 𝗲𝗲𝗿𝗀 on the 1s and 2s. So we have our first guest, I guess, on the podcast.
We have a bonus guest.
So on the with the CEO program, I've been waiting for something like this in chiropractic to happen, to where instead of it just being like, here's how to run a chiropractic office, here's like how to run a business with the chiropractic slant to it that has the specific things for chiropractic. But like, what caused you to put this together, and you and Pete, and how has that been for you? Because it's been about 6 months now, I think, that it's been going on.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sure. Alan's going to jump in.
Here's why. No,
I'm going to put my hand up his back.
So,
for those of the people that don't know you, that didn't listen to your other two podcasts,
I'm Alan. That's
hold on a second. Hold on. 𝗲𝗲𝗿𝗀 is a super successful chiropractor. He is partners in 13 businesses, has 5 clinics in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So the guy is like a business genius. So go ahead.
I did several coaching programs in chiropractic, and there's immense value. And then I realized at one point that when I got out of my practice and started operating other practices and other businesses, I realized my CEO IQ was horrible. Like, I really tangibly was like, oh crap, I'm out of my league, because when I was in the office every day, I could drive this thing. When I'm now not in the office, these offices were failing, and I was failing, and I'd invested big money in these businesses. So at the time, I had to go out of the profession and find other groups that were built to educate CEOs and teach them, and it cost immense money. And, they'd always try to convince me, and I'd tell them, but chiropractic's a different thing. And they'd say, yeah, every business owner says that. They think their thing's special. So after doing these different groups for several years, I can tell you chiropractic really is a unique thing. It's not the same.
It is.
So when I heard that Stephen and Pete were doing the CEO program, I'm like, God, you know how much money that would have saved me 5 years ago, not having to go find these groups? Because most of the people in these groups are running 5, 10, 20, $200, $300 million businesses, well, guess what? They charge a lot more for their groups too.
Right.
So the value for what they bring for, I don't know, whatever they charge, it's peanuts. But to have that context is fascinating to me. And that's all I wanted to point out, and I'll let you talk about it. What I've watched and the people I know going through this program is really interesting. It's the same thing I went through. They're having a shock to their self-identity because they're helping to evolve these guys beyond the person in the practice and, hey, I built a big practice, to a true CEO who's not in the practice, who has systems and procedures and the right people in place and teams so they don't have to be there. And there is so much to learn in that space. There's so many ways you can screw it up that that's my plug for it. I think when I heard him doing it, I went, that is so genius.
Yeah.
I never even thought to do that for the chiropractic space.
Yeah.
And there's so much value having had to have gone out of our space to learn these things. So
Thanks, buddy.
Is that done? Is it over? Are we done?
That's a big deal coming from one of the best business minds we have in chiropractic.
I
so
totally agree.
I appreciate that. All right, so I think let me circle around to answer your question, and if I could, let me just lay down just a couple ground rules, maybe set a premise or two, so you know where we're coming from. So, first and foremost, I want to mention we've thrown Dr. Pete's name around. Dr. 𝘊𝗲𝗲𝗀𝗃 is the Dr. Pete we're talking about. He and I have come together and really joined forces and just brothers from another mother and putting together this great content. But so I'm going to start from number one, from the highest level, is I believe that what the world needs right now is chiropractic. And what chiropractic needs right now is more successful chiropractors, right? So that's one premise. And I also believe that on a bigger scale, it's about creating a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one, right? And I say that, and I want to make sure that that's heard properly. This is not a selfish pursuit, right? So this is very much a purpose-driven pursuit, because I think there's too much brokenness in chiropractic. Historically, currently, you see people building these busy practices, quote-unquote successful practices, but it's at the expense of too much. It's either their physical health breaks down, they get burnt out, their marriage falls apart, they don't know their kids, they don't take vacation, they stop working out, whatever it is, it's too big of a price to pay, right? And it doesn't have to be that way, and I know that we can do better. I think what patients want is a switched on, passionate, healthy, energized, successful doctor. And I think that's the most attractive force in the marketplace. So I want to see doctors have these brilliant 30, 40, 50-year careers, not a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-year flare out, right? So which is what you see so often. So the big idea is you have to create the practice, the remarkable practice. You have to create the business that supports the remarkable life, not competes with it.
Right.
So that's the design of this CEO program. And it was essentially birthed from my own pain, my own experience of doing this wrong. Dr. Pete will share his own stories around doing it wrong and then fixing it and getting it right. And, to frame probably the rest of the questioning, Nick, we've created a construct for the industry to say there are 4 seasons available to you as a chiropractor in the chiropractic career. There's launch, build, scale, and exit. Those are the 4 seasons of the chiropractic career, if you do it well. That's the good news. The bad news is most chiropractors don't. And they, instead of going through 4 seasons, they try to do it in 3 seasons, right? They go launch, build, and then try to exit. And I'll tell you what, that doesn't exit well, because in that build stage of things, they don't own a business at all. They own a job. And for most chiros, as you know, that job owns them, and nobody wants to buy your job.
That's 100%. I mean, you probably see it more than I do, but when people go to sell this stuff, it's worth, like, I don't know, maybe a year's worth of revenue or income, but it's not like life-changing money. You can't like retire on most of these sale prices. So, but if you build it as a business, as an asset that someone could come in and step into and run, like someone could buy my practice right now, and there would be zero difference in the day-to-day, because I live 3 hours away. You could live 3,000 miles away, and still run it probably better than I do, because it's run like a business versus trying to supply me with a job.
So because you've done this right, you've gone from
Accidentally.
build to
I
scale.
wish I had you early.
You kind of tripped your way into it, but despite yourself, you've actually done this really well. No, your instincts are awesome.
My
Nick.
laziness paid off amazingly.
You're like all my favorite chiropractors. You are a businessman who happens to be a chiropractor, right? So just like Alan, just like myself, no matter what, we would have been in business. We were entrepreneurial. God makes entrepreneurs, right? By the grace of God, we discovered chiropractic, and chiropractic called us, right? So, and I'm very thankful for you guys because you're making such a huge impact because of this story. You've gone from build to scale. This isn't just about selling your practice. It's not just about creating an asset that people want to compete to buy from you. Okay, so that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Let's talk about the rainbow, right? So there's nothing like owning a business and running a business that you've built to sell. It's a cultural thing. It runs differently. It's a different machine. And here's the truth: you can make a bigger impact and make a bigger income, at the same time. So you've done that shift from job to business, right? And the difference between owning a job and owning a business is businesses are scalable, they're durable, and then eventually they're transferable, right? So you just described it. So scalable, which means you can do more, give more, love more, serve more, make a bigger impact and make a bigger income, but it doesn't have to all be done by you. Right? You've learned how to leverage systems, people, and technology. You do all three, right? So durable means that you can give more, love more, serve more, deliver more value, capture more value. You can make a bigger impact and a bigger income even in your absence. Like you live 3 hours away from your clinic. You're not there. And there's professionals there. You've chosen to pull yourself out of that environment. You have other caregivers in there that are delivering the value even in your absence. It's the ultimate litmus test. If you didn't show up for work on Monday, would anybody notice? Your answer is a resounding no. You're not going to be there Monday. And the mission goes on. The value continues to be delivered. The business continues to add value and capture value. You own a business. You've gone from build to scale, which means you'll eventually be able to exit beautifully. Right? And that's part of this two-step process that we teach in the Remarkable CEO program, which is number one, you got to take your job and turn it into a business. Now you're in the second part of this, the second step, which is you going from the identity of the owner-operator to the CEO.
So you said Build to Sell in there, and I love that book, Build to Sell. I can't remember have you read that book before?
Was that Alan Minor? Did he write that?
Probably. I cannot remember who wrote it, but it is an awesome book. It's like a parable, and it's such a good way for people to think about a business in that, and then it makes it easy to, when you have that intention in mind of selling it, you build it the right way so that, and with chiropractic, I think that if it's built the right way, most offices or the vast majority of offices are single doctor offices. And I'm of the belief that, like you said, God makes entrepreneurs. I don't think that most chiropractors that run their practices are like God-given entrepreneurs. I think that they're business owners just because there's no chiropractic hospital. But if somebody offered them $150,000 to not have any responsibility and have to worry about the business side of it, 70% of them would take it, right? So I think that the entrepreneurs of the group, if they learned how to make this scalable, they'd have a home for more chiropractors. I wish I had 100 associates.
Exactly right.
Right? Yeah. I wish I could hire all the people that are graduating because I would know what to do with them. It's just a matter of like, is there enough, demand and supply and all of that. But
and that's really, that's the answer to the question, well, what about 500 to $1 million and then multiple 7-figure businesses? The key to that is creating scalability and durability, which is what you just said, which is keeping your practice owner's hat on and thinking about it from the perspective of how do I really scale this thing as a business? Like you can still be a clinician, you can still be giving, loving, and serving and delivering great chiropractic care and taking great care of people. That doesn't mean you have to surrender that role. People hear that. They're like, oh, I'm going to become the CEO, which means I'm going to stop being a chiropractor. You could absolutely not. You could
do
spend
whatever you want.
4/5 of your time adjusting patients if you choose to. But you and I both know it's the difference between having to adjust people and getting to adjust people, right? And
I could go in and adjust as many as I wanted tomorrow.
That's exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And I never wanted to take my hands off of the patients. I didn't. 23 years, it was always hands-on, high volume. I loved it, but at the same time, I was still the CEO because the other 2/3 of my time was spent training up my associate doctors and my team and marketing the practice. So I was in charge of attraction and conversion. And then my third job was educate and adjust the patients, checking spines and changing minds, man. It's like I never wanted to get out of the trenches. Absolutely loved it. It energized me, and that's what made it fun. But I got to design it, and I made the choice to do it.
When shoot, what did you just say? You just said something that like triggered something in my mind. But anyway,
well, you said something earlier that I want to. I think we should probably, maybe I'll come back and we'll do another show just on what you said around the difference between a business builder and a caregiver when it comes to chiropractors. This is innate now, right? Yeah. So there, God makes entrepreneurs, and you're hardwired to be an entrepreneur, meaning you love the risk. You want to be the boss. Yeah. You want to lead a team. You want to lead the community. Yeah. You are happy to build a business out of vapor, right? So you go to bed at night, psyched to get up in the morning and run a business. That's about 20-25% of human beings, which means 20 to 25% of chiropractors are hardwired to be business owners.
I think that's right. Yeah.
The other 70-75% are hardwired to be caregivers, right? We all want to take good care of people, but 75% of chiropractors are not hardwired to be business owners, right? So that doctor wants, they want to be a caregiver. They want to take good care of people. Yeah. And somewhere along the way in school, they figured out, holy crap, I actually have to learn how to be a business owner. I have to learn how to be an entrepreneur, but it's not their natural ilk, right? That's not necessarily how they're hardwired. So I think that's an entirely different conversation, because there's a way to right that ship. Okay, there's actually several things that need to be done around that. Yeah. And I'm really passionate about bringing that message to the marketplace.
Well, and I think that you are, you're building those entrepreneurs up to evolve beyond, because most people just get stuck in that build phase and they just keep building and building and building they're like creating their jail around them, because I mean in the Remarkable Practice, there's people with huge practices that now that they're in the CEO program, it's like they're a fish out of water, and it's like funny to watch them, because I've gotten a lot of like outside CEO training just because I love the entrepreneurial stuff. But people that have only ever gotten chiropractic coaching, now that they're getting CEO training, it's funny to watch, like in the group, because I'm like, how did you guys you guys see 1,000 people a week? How do you not know this part?
No, it's true, because they have had such success as the owner operator, where they are head down, bum up, and they're the one delivering the care, right? And making that shift from build to scale, you have to hire an associate doctor just by definition. Otherwise, you're not scalable or durable, right? So that's the threshold. As soon as you bring in another doctor, okay, so now you're starting to build out a professional team around you, 1, 2, 3, or whatever, multiple clinics, whatever. The transition from job to business is adding an associate doctor. That's step one. Step two is the hard part, which is the identity shift from owner-operator to CEO. And it's hard because as the owner-operator, we're really accustomed to having the control, the visibility that comes with being the owner-operator, where we can control everything and we get our hands in and on it. We love that. And we also get all the reward and the recognition. So we've had success here, and for a lot of docs on the line right now, a lot of success and a lot of recognition, a lot of reward. So it's hard to give up that identity and make this shift, this transformation to a CEO, which is a scary new perch. You're coming out of this place where you've got this control and a comfort zone and familiarity, and you've proven yourself there. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, great. Leave that place of success and move over here to CEO, right? And there's going to be some pain and there's going to be some struggle with that, but they have to own the fact that it's not nearly the pain that comes with staying the owner-operator and trying to do your whole career in the build zone as the owner-operator. The pain that you'll experience then, the trade-off of the overwhelm, the lifestyle being upside down, building the prison, like you said, being owned by your job and by the practice, is real chronic pain there. And not to mention the exit piece, which is when it really gets ugly. I remember what I was going to ask you about. You mentioned training. And you say something about training that I always like. I think it's like every hour of training gets you like a day off in the future. What is it exactly? Yeah, I mean, I love to train. I'm naturally a trainer. I love to train and develop people. And in my own mind's eye, I was like, okay, so I create great systems, I build great teams, and I invest in training them. And I knew with my associate doctors that every hour I spent training an associate doctor translated into a day off for me. And you know what? It's not that I don't love being in the practice, not that I didn't love just taking care of patients. It's not that at all. It's just that I absolutely love having the freedom to take my family on these awesome trips and vacations and take 6-8 weeks vacation a year, whatever you want to do. But it was wonderful that I had the choice. And my chiros were kicking me out the door like, doc, isn't it time for a surf trip? Get out of here, go on vacation, right? So we just built it into the whole culture of our practice.
Yeah, I think that that's such a good, because I mean, I would guess that the vast majority of owners out there are not in love with training. And it's just like working out. It's like, I hate working out. But I like the results that come from it. You know, better health, more energy, you know, look better in clothes. Like all the things that come along with that, that's what gets you to go to the gym. And it's the same way with training. And I'd never really thought about it before I heard you say that. And so I thought that would be valuable for the other people out there.
Yeah, I mean, you have to train. If you don't train, you own a job. You know, if you don't train your team, you own a job. That's it. It's a litmus test, right? So I say train your people or smash your head against the wall. Your choice.
Right. All right. So when people get over 1 million, you know, I always say this about TRP for people that are at, because I'm at all the events, you know. So whenever somebody's at an event for the first time, especially like if I know them, you know, they have usually gone through other coaching programs. And what I always tell them, I'm like, TRP is like the coaching program that people like graduate into. It's like they'll try other ones and then they'll somehow like stumble into TRP. And I think you do a good job of like being out there and like doing marketing for TRP, because that's one thing that I noticed last time. I'm just like, you know, I just kind of had an epiphany. I'm like, there are always new people here. Like there's always, and it's not like there's other, like people are leaving. It's always getting bigger because you're out there attracting more people in. But a friend of mine was there, and he was just like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, yeah, I'm definitely signing up. And he, you know, he told me, he's like, I've done 3 coaching programs, and this is just different, you know. And so
yeah, I mean, I really do think that people pick up on the energy of our tribe. We call them the =𝗲𝗿𝗂𝗋. And I'm super proud of it, right? I'm super proud of it. It starts from our team. Our team is so extraordinary. Our coaches and our internal team, they are truly remarkable. And that's what attracts these people into this circle. And the vibe is in the tribe.
Did you actually build what you said, what you teach?
Yeah. I mean, it would be contradictory if, you know, we're teaching a remarkable team building immersion and my team sucks. That would be really awkward.
That would be bad, yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what people pick up on is, I love, like, we're in Australia now. We do 4 events in Australia, 4 events in the US. And I watched what happened like over a 3-year period. When we first showed up, the Australians were, I loved the Australians. I mean, it's one of my favorite places in the world. It's a place that I would move, actually. And I remember the first ones, arms crossed, sitting there watching, just trying to figure out, who are these Americans who are coming over here telling us what to do, right? So can we trust them? Can we, we kind of, you know. And then the next time we came through, they're like, well, we really like these guys, and they've got a lot of Aussies on their team, and their systems are good, and I'm trying, and I'm getting some success, so I'm starting to trust them. The third year we came back, it was a tribe. These are people coming home. They're interacting with each other. There's so much activity on our forums, and you know, that's what you love to see. Is you love to see the tribe building, and people are connected with other like-minded people who are on purpose, who are doing the same processes, systems, and procedures, and supporting each other. Man, 1 + 1 + 1 = 111. Man, it's just been a lot of fun to watch it develop.
Yeah. So when I'm not sure how I had started on the over 1 million, and then I veered off into the remarkable
I
practice.
think we attract a lot of really successful doctors.
I think that's what it was. I was saying that I think what my point was is that there are a lot of like super successful practices in TRP. So you coach a lot of million-plus businesses. What are like maybe 3 of the common threads that you see of those people that really reach that high level of success?
I think first one I'd say is they don't get distracted. So usually doctors, when they've arrived, so to speak, in the 7-figure zone, right, then they can get distracted. They start thinking about, I'm going to get over here in real estate, and I'm going to start this company, and I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And they're looking for other business opportunities. And I love the idea of diversification, et cetera, but I know what my expertise is. And for most of the chiros that I know what their expertise is as well.
Yeah.
Stay home, right? So recognize that you've got business inside of your business, right? So start developing your associate program. Start planting practices if you choose to do that. Like, stay in the space that you know so well, and recognize that every doctor you bring into your business is like buying a new business, right? So focus on developing the businesses inside of your business. And the doctors who do this really well, sustain this level of excellence, and that's where they go to the $3 million, $5 million mark, when they're able to really do that well and stay focused on what they know and not get distracted.
Yeah. What's a couple more that you see?
Without a doubt, their investment in their teams. So the best ROI, period, number one, no argument, is training.
Yeah.
So training and developing your people. Marketing is a distant second. Okay, so when we're talking about ROI, if you ask most chiropractors, most business people, frankly, you say, what's your best return on investment of your dollar, right? And they'll be like, oh, marketing, it's advertising, I got to do it. No, it's your team.
Yeah.
No question about it. Okay, so when you invest in training and developing and equipping your people, the ROI on that you enjoy is extraordinary. It's 100x, right?
Yeah.
So if you're successful at marketing, marketing's critical. You absolutely have to market, especially good marketing, right? So if you have a great marketing initiative, you might see a bump in your business, but you metabolize that, right? If you develop your people, you develop and collect ideal people. When you have A players that you're developing, you enjoy that every single day.
When if you spend $10,000 on marketing, once the $10,000 is spent, the effect is relatively gone. I mean, if you've built some brand with the $10,000, there might be some lingering effect, but you spend $10,000 investing in your team, that can return forever.
Yeah.
Because once they know something, they know something.
When people approach me to help them build their businesses, build their practices, one of the first things I want to know from them is like, show me your marketing calendar and your marketing budget, and show me your training calendar and your employment budget. Like, what are you spending on your people? Like, talk to me about. People understand, okay, I should have a marketing calendar and I should have a marketing budget, right? So they understand that. Some people even understand that you should be investing to the level that you're trying to achieve in marketing. Like if you're at $700,000 and you want to go to $1 million, you should be marketing as if you're $1 million practice, right? So you market to create a vacuum towards the business you're trying to build. That's how you land on your budget. It'll pull you forward. Same is true for your team.
Yeah.
If you want to be investing in the team that's going to pull you ahead, right? So you got to be looking at, do I have the right people in the right seats, doing the right work the right way? Those are the 4 rights that you got to get right as a CEO.
Got it. What's the most successful practice you've seen?
Attributes, you mean?
Yeah, like however you define that. What's the most successful practice that you've seen outside of your own?
I've seen. When you ask me that question, 2 or 3 practices pop up in my mind. So I've been in hundreds of practices. And when I say I see practices, I see the guts. I see their metrics. Yeah. Right? So I know the stories and I know the numbers. Yeah. Right? So when I see the complete picture, I see a practice that is really focused on the principles of chiropractic and teaching their community. So first and foremost, it's a principled chiropractic office that's delivering something unique in the healthcare space in their community, right? And it always includes patient education. Number 2, it's a clinic that's committed to having great team members and training. There's a training culture in place. We like to say we see patients between trainings, right? That's how important training is. They're savvy marketers, and they usually leverage other experts in marketing. So whether it's internal marketing, external marketing, or digital marketing, you can leverage other experts like leverage media. Doctors shouldn't be distracted. We shouldn't be trying to figure out algorithms on social media marketing, right? So hire people that all they do is focus on that, right? So they learn how to leverage other experts. And ultimately, it's a doctor that has fallen in love with the business of chiropractic. It is the 4th leg of the stool. In school, we're taught what it takes to be a successful chiropractor. It's the art, science, and philosophy, as BJ famously said. Yeah. Well, that's a great story, but it's an incomplete story. In the modern marketplace, the doctor's got to have business acumen. That's the 4th leg of the chiropractic stool for them to really have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one.
That's awesome. Any other pearls of wisdom that you want to share with us before we sign off?
Yeah, you know what? I'd love to just take a minute to recognize you and what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
You're living what you practice and what you preach, right? You're living up front, and just the content that you've been creating is excellent. but you're teaching and showing all of us that this is what it takes. You've got to bite the bullet and get in front of the camera, get in front of the microphone, and get yourself out into your community.
Yeah.
This content marketing is the key to it. Everybody thinks that you're going to be able to strike a check. Somebody's going to do some magic Facebook ad that's going to flood your practice with new patients. Listen, people do business with people. You've got to get in front of your community. They've got to know, like, and trust you. And man, there's never been a time like today where you can get in front of people, frankly, for free and add value so that they feel like they know you, they like you, and they trust you. So, man, I just want to say kudos to you, Nick, for what you're doing. Content marketing is the key to successful digital marketing, and you're just making it easier for these doctors to be successful, so I appreciate you for that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. You know, I literally just got a strategy session that came through off of the interview that I did with 𝘲𝗲𝗿𝗀𝗋. And I get people that, because I used to have to only meet people in person to like generate business for leverage. And we were so busy like building it and trying to perfect everything. And I'm just like, this makes no sense why we are not creating content for a content marketing agency, because I have no problem doing it for the practice, but for whatever reason, I had this block with it for doing it for leverage. And once we started doing it, now it's like, and a lot of it comes like, I was on your podcast. And so I probably got like 5 people that got in touch with me from that. And again, there's nothing like difficult about this. We're just having a conversation. And the people that like Steven Franson may get introduced to me through this. And I just want, you're right, like the point of me doing this much content for chiropractors is A, I want them to like be successful, but B, I want them to see that like the way that you showed up, when they show up in a strategy session because of one guy the other day said, I don't really know where how I ended up here. I just like, I see you everywhere, and you know, so I thought I'd talk to you. And I'm like, that is when that person says that, it's so easy to explain to them at the end when it's like, do you want to hire me? The reason why you're on this call is exactly what will happen with patients. They won't know where they found you from.
I see you everywhere.
I see you everywhere. Yeah. So I really appreciate that. And you're doing a great job of that. And that's what I think has really been a big part of all these new people coming into TRP, is that you're just out there more. You know, and it's just, I think, and you're always adding so much value with your content. So
thank you,
to hear that from somebody like you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, my man. Yeah, so you mentioned our podcast. So if people would like to hear more about what we're doing with the Remarkable CEO program or anything else we're doing on the Remarkable Practice, check out the Remarkable CEO podcast, the podcast I do with Dr. 𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗿𝘀. We put out an episode every week. It's great content. So if you liked what we talked about today, you're going to love that podcast.
I did one of my first podcast episodes. If you go back, it's like 2, 3, or 4, was with Pete, and we talked a little bit more specifically about the CEO program and the four seasons of a practice. And so if you want to watch or listen to that one, you can. Your podcast, I will say this, is so tactical. Like, it's the stuff that we're paying to learn inside of the CEO program. Again, if I would have had that, because it's probably like 40 or 50 episodes now.
40.
40, yeah. If like you could just go back and binge all of those and get so much value from that, because it's really mostly like you and Pete. There's very few like interviews. Like I think the first interview, which I'm very proud of to this day. But there aren't that many interviews. It's a lot of you guys just teaching. And if you're like a student out there, or you're a new doctor, man, that stuff is so valuable. Yep. So I would strongly recommend listening to the podcast.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate that.
And then how can they find out more about TRP and all the things you guys are doing?
You can check us out at theremarkablepractice.com. Obviously, we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. You can reach out to me on Instagram if you want to. You can DM me. I'm at Dr. Stephen F. So Dr. Stephen F. Stephen with a PH, so Dr. Stephen F. Instagram and Facebook. Shoot me a message.
The party is
about
to start. We're about to get jumping up in here. All right, guys, we will see you on the next one.